Sunday challenge accepted. Someone's asked, can they reproduce this? I don't know if I can do it without an airbrush, but I'll give it a good go. If I had to guess, I'd say it starts blue and then you work the white into it, perhaps. Yeah, I'm going to see what I'm going to do. I'm going to start with slate for the pieces of ice. I don't know if it's going to go with the snow or Astro Granite and make it look like snow. 3 whites, 3 blues and blue tone. I'm going to try and find some thick but cuttable plastic to maybe do plastic or ice sheets, but I've got to find that. Start with those as my rocks. It'll take a few layers to build up Astro Granite, I think, to that height, but I didn't have any thinner ones. As always, use the great and mighty Citadel basing set. Always have some skulls prepped for a random skull. Seeing as I used far too much super glue and it's going to take a while to dry, I thought I'd broach the shattered ice look. So I'm going to take a circle of cardboard, and thinking of super glue, I don't know if a lot of you probably do know this, if you soak super glue into cardboard, let it soak in and dry, it kind of becomes kind of plasticky. It's got a good edge on it, so we'll see how that turns out. First things first, let the glue soak into the edges so you've got a place to work from that isn't going to stick to anything else. All the way around. Wait for that to dry, and then when you put the glue on the top, it shouldn't go through or past that marker, but you have to hold it there till it's dry, obviously, or it'll stick to anything you put it down on. If you're impatient like me, use blue tack to hold it off the surface of anything so you can add the next layer. And then when it can't soak up anymore and the super glue stays on the top, you know you can't get any more soaked into it, just wait for it to dry. When it comes to cutting it, use a craft knife or a scalpel. You try your scissors with that, it'll probably wreck your scissors and get glue caught in it. Difference between untreated, cardboardy, treated, plasticky. While waiting on drying time, I'm just going to work on this. This is just a prototype, it won't be a proper base, that's why I'm using cardboard. Use a thin piece and flatten it down to one side, and I'm hoping to get this look like some shattered ice. So I'll build it up in the shape that it was before I cut it. Leave gaps between and build it up that way. It'll look better when I've neatened it up. Doesn't look much now, but as I say, it's just a prototype while waiting for this to dry. And I've already started working on some blues, which I'm going to heavily dry brush white to try and leave the blue effect behind. Tester of slate to ice. Not too bad. It's harder working from blue to white, but your brain tells you should paint it white and dry brush blue. But I'm sure the way to go is to bring it up from blue to white. It makes it more difficult, but it's got to be the way of doing it. I'll carry on trying, but that's where we are. More drying time, just the base layer. Again, it is completely a prototype just to see if I can get sort of a thin shattered ice look. So please bear with me. Wait for it to dry and then it'll be a really heavy dry brush. Macragge, Calgar and Temple Blue, Ceramite to bring it up a little bit. Darkest in the recesses. I covered the slate because although it's going to be majority white, I just want the ever so slight bit of blue showing through on all the cracks, but I don't know if the white will completely cover it. We'll have to see how that turns out, but that's where we are. Not the greatest result, but I think the premise is there. Obviously it was just a prototype, but I think if I put more time into it and used a bit more care and I cared about it a bit more, you could get a shattered ice look, I think. I'll dry brush maybe one more level of like proper white over that, but rather than waste it, I've started bringing up this now with lighter and lighter blue. So my plan is to keep lightening this by dry brushing to a sort of crisp ice white on the rocks and maybe just the tops of the snow. May sound like white overkill, but that's a dry brush of pallid witch flesh because I want a level between nearly white and absolute white. The final layer of total white, ceramite white I think it is on. I'm just going to let it dry and then I'm going to add my final addition. I'm going to see how adding some blue shade helps perhaps, and I'll also add some blue shade to this just to see how it turns out. Don't forget this is just a prototype, just a tester. Inks have been added, so this one's finished now, just a tester. I have to keep saying that, but I don't want people thinking that's the level of my work, but could revisit that. I think there's potential there. And on the main base, really watered down blue ink, Army Painter, just to bring out the underlying cracks and crevices on the rocks. It's looking good. I'll tidy it up. Next time you see it, it will be finished. I might add some Valhalla snow. I'm going to have to practice using it before. I haven't used it properly. So afternoon project finished. Using super glue, all the blues, the whites, mix and match, slate. Practiced on a piece of slate first. While drying time was going on, tried the super glue soaked cardboard effect for ice. It was okay. I think there's something there to try. But here's the actual finished piece. Shout out to Tom from Fohammer for saying, could this be done? Possibly not up to the standard of the picture shown, but no airbrush. This wasn't a pre-made base. I did it from scratch, and it took me what, 3 hours? Probably a lot less if you take out the drying time. But there we go. Not too bad, is it?